Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. My name is Lisa Beth Doyle. I'm the manager of health and wellness here at Always Health Partners. Past couple of months have been challenging for everybody, some perhaps more so than others. And with this in mind, we've been looking to do something helpful. Self-care and resilience are always key elements of feeling well, and now even more so. Today, we're bringing you an expert to offer advice that is specific to both the current COVID-19 crisis and to good, healthy information to use going forward. Sarah Scott Dooling is a licensed clinical social worker with her own private practice and a registered play therapist supervisor. She teaches graduate level courses at two San Diego universities and facilitates creative, interactive professional development workshops for clinicians, educators, and industry associations. I hope you will enjoy today's presentation. And without further ado, here is Sarah.
Hello, welcome. This is my first time doing anything in this kind of setup, right? These are strange times that we're living in. But it's wonderful to be here with you, even though I can't see you. We're here together in this. Before we dive into the self-care material, I just want to have a sense of who is here with me, who is kind of in this community right now. So there's going to be a poll. I'm sure if you've gotten it already, just to have a sense of what are the ages of your children? What are you dealing with at home right now in the trenches? Take a second, fill that out. Okay. I see the poll. Just come back here. Okay. There I am. Okay. Thank you for doing that. All right. So it looks like we have a mix of ages. Gosh, the stress, depending on whatever developmental age of children or the number of children you have at home, it's hard. What you're going through is really hard. So today is really all about, and I have a prop with me, getting your oxygen mask securely fastened. If you've ever flown on an airplane, you know that they talk to you about make sure your mask is securely fastened before you help anyone else, even children. And so that's really what today's about. And I'm hoping when you leave here today, when we finish our time together, you'll have at least one or two things you can put into practice right away that will help you secure your oxygen mask. Make sure that that's securely fastened. So, so I am a play therapist, which is kind of a funny job. Well, it's a great job. But so I have about 12 plus years experience working with kids. Along the way of working with kids, I started to get really excited about working with the adults who take care of kids, parents, teachers, therapists, again, to help them get their oxygen masks on, because you do the magic. You're the one who are with the kids all the time. With that being said, it's hard for me to present to adults without bringing in a little bit of play. So bear with me. Thanks for your flexibility with this. I know you're all grown-ups, but kids have taught me that things just resonate a little bit more if we have something to remember it by. So there'll be some craft samples coming your way. So stay tuned. Okay, this is hard. What you're doing is hard. It's 11 a.m. You need to jump on a conference call in 30 minutes. You need to figure out lunch for your kids. The sink is full of dirty dishes. You haven't had time to take a shower. You don't even know what your conference call is about. You haven't prepared for it. And then your 3-year-old calls out, "Mom, Dad, I had an accident," and it's messy. A day in the life of parenting during a quarantine. It's a lot. You're trying to do your work. You're trying to homeschool, take care of kids. So this is hard. So my hope again for our time together today is you will leave a little bit hopeful that there are some things you can start right away. So I get so excited when I talk about this material. So I'm going to try my best to not talk too fast. Please know that each of these skills I'm going to present, I would love to talk to you for days, hours about these, but I'm just going to introduce them to you, talk a little bit about it, and hope a couple of them kind of catch your attention and you start working on these on your own. But without further ado, also want to give a shout out, if I can, to my Instagram account. I'm newish to the social media world. It's on the handout you'll get. It's I'm at Heal with Play. heal with play. But a lot of what we're talking about today, there's lengthier descriptions and samples and all of that. It's really meant to be a space that can be kind of nourishing and helpful for parents and caregivers like yourself. So here we go. I'm going to be introducing to you today 5, I call them resilient skills. 5 skills that are going to help us take care of ourselves when we're in the trenches like this. And we are in the trenches right now. So resilient skill number 1. So this is something that I'm hoping, so again, I can't stress this enough. I'm hoping these might not all be the right fit for you, and I absolutely get that. So pay attention to when you hear about these, which one kind of lights you up, which one feels like, yeah, I could do that. I don't want you to leave here feeling like you have to try all of these right away. So try to pay attention when I talk about these to which one seems to resonate for you. So the first resilient skill, the first skill I'm going to teach you that I've worked with a lot of parents and caregivers on is daydreaming. So let's go back to that chaotic moment, which is stress inducing for all of us that I talked about. It's now 10 minutes till your conference call. Kids have come undone. Nobody's had lunch. You haven't showered. You're not ready, right? You feel your stress rising as I even talk about this, right? You've all been there. So in those moments when that tidal wave of stress is hitting you, right in that moment, to me, the most important goal is to try to get our nervous system back to neutral. How do we get back to neutral? So what I want you to practice doing is daydreaming. So when you feel your stress temperature rising like that in those moments, to daydream about something, the way I teach it to kids and adults now is that makes you smile on the inside. What helps you feel like you're back to neutral? So back to that chaotic moment, there you are, your stress level's creeping up to an 8, a 9, almost a 10. I want you to be able to practice imagining now, maybe you're on a beach. There's no more coronavirus. Your feet are in the sand, the sounds of the waves, the smells. It's just a great day. So daydreaming, we know, is this really wonderful way of being able to, again, regulate us and get us back to a neutral place, which is what we want so that we can think clearly again. So in that moment, it's possible. Our brains are these amazing mechanisms that can help us kind of bring the ocean to us in that moment. So I have to have these written down because I don't know if you guys can see these. So clouds always make me think of daydreaming. I write these out and hang them on the refrigerator, in my bedroom, in my closet, so that I can remember. So for me, a daydream I have all the time is going to the movies alone, the smells of the popcorn, my feet up. And so that helps me get back to neutral. So I'd love for you to, we're all in here together. I would ask you, of course, about your daydreams, but just take a minute to think about some of what you could daydream about. There'll be a handout going out called an integration handout that will discuss each of the skills that we talk about today. It's kind of like a worksheet, and you can kind of complete it. So hopefully you'll do that, and it will be something helpful to remind you of all this. So if you're taking notes, don't feel like you have to. You'll be getting something. Okay, so resilience skill number 1, daydream. Okay. I know I can't see you all, but I'm like feeling a warm, fuzzy vibe. I feel like we're vibing, even though we can't see you. Okay, resilience skill number 2. Identify your support tribe. So who are your support people? This can feel lonely right now. All those doses of interaction that a lot of us are used to, going to the coffee shop and happy hour and play dates, right? We're not having any of that. So it's isolating and it's lonely. And I think it's super important that we are identifying who are our support people, and how are we going to reach them when we need them. So I have the great fortune of having a best friend for life. I also grew up on the East Coast, and someone I went to kindergarten with who still is kind of my debriefing partner. And so we have a code word. So what I'd like for you to do, your challenge for today, is to think about who your debriefing partners might be, people who, when you reach out to them, it helps you feel better and not worse. It's kind of an easy way to start to decide who your debriefing people are. And how are you going to let them know that you need them in that moment? So with my best friend, if I send a text saying, can you talk for 5 minutes? That's our code. She knows it's kind of like an SOS and we need to talk. So that has really helped us. I find with a lot of people I work with, they'll make the call, reach out to their support person. Their support person won't understand that they're needing extra help. So there's some injury that happens. The person's left feeling like they weren't supported. It's up to us to tell the person what we need. So I have a way that I like to remember this. So I make a life preserver. Not sure if you guys can see this. It's okay if you can't read it. And I hang this on the fridge. I do this with kids and adults in my practice. The life preserver, the people who help you when you're drowning. And I have a note to myself that says, I need to say to this person, I need to debrief. Do you have 5 minutes? And then I have a list of the people and how I reach them. Do I text them? Do I call them? And sometimes when I present this to adults, it seems silly at first. But a lot of us aren't doing this at all. We're kind of forgetting who our people are, and they want to show up for you. Your people want to show up for you and help you. They don't know how, and we need to teach them. So if you don't have life preservers handy to write on, that's okay. But absolutely, if this one speaks to you, I encourage you to just jot down the 3 names. Maybe there's more than 3, but try to come up with at least 3, and then how to reach them and what you can say to let them know you just need a 5-minute debrief, which might just sound like today was bananas, right? But just to have someone kind of show up for us and not try to fix it, but just say, that's rough, I'm here, is so therapeutic, so important when we're going through this. So that's challenge 2 with resilience skill 2, is to write this down. Again, you'll be getting this integration handout, which will highlight this and give you an opportunity to write it down. Okay, can't read your signals, but I'm gonna move on. I do have actually regarding the support tribe, I have a colleague, I was presenting this to some teachers and said, does anyone already have this in place? Do you have a debriefing partner? Maybe you didn't brand it that, but someone who you debrief with, and someone raised their hand and said, I do. I have a best friend or a friend, and I just text a lot of curse words, and that way they know I had a bad day and I need to talk. And sometimes they just text curse words back. It's like an instant support and kinship. And again, that's just important for our nervous system, for all of us. So life preserver or not, try to find a way to write it down. We need to see it. We need to have a visual to represent this. Because when we're in the trenches, hit by a tidal wave, our thinking brain just isn't working the way it usually does, kind of in a primitive state. So to see something there is just an important way to get us to actually use the skill. Okay, this is the point I would say, everyone feeling good? So know that I'm wondering it. I hope you're feeling good. Resilience skill number 3, connected to your tribe. What can I teach the people in my life about how to take care of me? Gosh, this is a big one. This is hard for us as adults. We have a really hard time letting the people in our life know what we need. I share this story regularly. My mom and dad have been married, 44 years, I think. And maybe at year 39, my mom's starting to tell my sisters and I that, gosh, for years your dad has said when it's dinner time, what's the plan for dinner? And it drives me crazy. And she shared that it had really been weighing on her. It really pushes her buttons. And we talked about it like, well, what if you could just tell him? Instead, say, hey, let's make a plan together for dinner. Like, just change the semantics a little. Might that help? And she said, yeah, it would help, but no, I won't tell him. So I was curious about it, and now I'm curious about it all the time when I work with couples and families. What are the words that people in your life use that hurt, and which words help? And how do we help people say more of the words that help and less of the words that hurt? And that onus is on us, that's really on us, and that can feel heavy. To notice when our partner or a kid say something that pushes the button, and then how do we gently, assertively say, I need to hear less of that and more of this. So I know this is a challenging one, and this can feel really vulnerable for a lot of us. So if this speaks to you, I actually just wrote a long post about it on Instagram, and there's a sample of how to kind of I've had families create posters in the house of words that help, words that heal, words that help, words that hurt, things like that. So if this one calls to you, it can, I think it can be really therapeutic. But take some front loading. I really wish we could just wear these. You can see these. Fragile, handle with love. I just long for a day we can have stickers that let people know right away what state we're in. As our partners just, they don't know. We don't always know how to tell them right away. We wish they would just know by looking at us, and then they don't know, and then that causes a rift and can lead to resentment, all the things that happen. So someday maybe we'll wear these. I have worn these before to have a non-verbal way of just alerting my partner to the fact that it was one of those days. So all of this just under the umbrella of how can you start to think about the words that hurt and words that help, and then how can you help the people in your life know, and then how can we alert them to the kind of day we've had. My husband, for years, I would come home from work and he'd say, "How was your day?" And I'd say, "Fine." And that would be it. And I would be just like, boiling with like, doesn't he know it was a hard day? I want him to ask more questions. And it created stress, certainly on my end. So I knew, okay, I preach about this all the time. I need to let him know. So I said, when I say fine, it probably means it wasn't such a great day. Can you ask me some specific questions after, like, what was the best part? What was the worst part? Did anything make you laugh? And I had to write up my list of questions. No, that's not everyone's style. It doesn't have to be your style. The point of that, I suppose, is just that it falls on us to notice and then to teach them. I also, if you have teenagers in the home, which some of you do, I work with a lot of teenagers. Sometimes we'll make door handles we hang on the door. You can see this, fragile, handle with lots of love. Teenagers can put it on their bedroom. I've done it with younger kids. I use these at home sometimes just to let people know, just a nonverbal signal before someone even comes in, to know the state you're in, that they want to handle you with extra love, handle you carefully. I love using this one too. This one says, "I need to be alone, but I still love you." And this one says, "I need you." Sometimes it's hard to find the words to ask, so making these is just another way if you're open to it. Okay. Whew. This goes fast. Everyone doing okay out there? Hoping we're saying, yeah, we're soaking this all in. Resilience skill number 4 is my favorite, and the one I think is the most important gift we can give ourselves, and absolutely the one that's going to help tip the scales towards resilience and thriving for you when you're going through something like you're all going through right now. And that is to cultivate a compassionate, supportive, loving inner voice. There's a lot of therapies kind of rooted in this concept. We want to help people learn to be their best ally. Your voice is the voice you'll spend the most time with in your life. Your voice is always there with you. For the ups and downs, we tend to be really hard on ourselves and talk to ourselves in a way we wouldn't dream of talking to someone else. And that's concerning to me. That's always something that I focus on in my work with people of all ages. But it's hard. It's like learning a new language. We're so used to being hard on ourselves. I have a friend who is teaching from home right now. It's just a wild amount of responsibility, preparing lessons, teaching, doing live classroom sessions. She also has a 2-year-old at home, so she's trying to, as all of you are, work while she cares for her child. She had spent all this time prepping for something that she had to do live, and she was going to be observed, and she finished it, and we checked in that night. I said, "How did it go?" And she said, "It was awful. I'm so bad at technology. Kids didn't learn anything. I let my kid watch so much TV while I was doing it and preparing, and that probably ruined my daughter. And oh man, it was harsh. Ouch." if I had gone to her with the same predicament, I'm guessing she wouldn't have said those things to me. She probably would have said something like, you did your best, it's over, all you can do is your best, things are hard right now. Right? But we don't say that to ourselves. We say it to everyone else, but not to ourselves. So that is, if you pay attention to one thing today, if one thing stays with you, I hope it's this one, is to start to notice how you're talking to yourself. It really matters. I think it's the fastest way to get our oxygen mask back on. It's like, what do you wish someone would whisper in your ear after a really horrible day? What do you wish they would say to you? So I actually do this with kids, teenagers, and adults. Um, we write, I call them love notes. So if you can see these, they're just little notes. They have my name on them. I write a lot of, because I need to hear a lot of good things, right? We have to do that to get through this. The notes aren't meant to say grandiose things about you. They can, certainly. That's hard for a lot of us to come up with. The notes are there to say the things you wish someone would whisper to you, you wish someone would say to you, but they just don't say it. So we can say it to ourselves. So my notes just often say things like, today was bananas, but you made it through. Tomorrow will be better. Okay, so what do we want to hear? So I really urge you to think about, what do you want to hear? What is comforting to you? What words? And to know that you can say those to yourself, and to notice when you are really just beating up on yourself, to just gently ask, would I talk to a best friend this way? Would I talk to my child this way? This one's really, to me, this is probably the biggest one. So if you don't want to write love notes to yourself, I understand. I'm hoping a couple of you will, though, because it goes pretty well. I work with a lot of social workers who work in child welfare, which is and certainly in the trenches. They do a lot of driving around, a lot of home visits. So we write a lot of these and they put them in their glove compartment. And on really tough home visits, really tough days, that's their job, is to take one out of the glove compartment and read it. Because they wish in those moments they had someone saying these things to them. Another shout out to my Instagram page, if I can. I write these and post them pretty regularly, because I think because it's so new for us, we didn't learn this language of self-compassion when we were kids and adults, so it's new for a lot of us. I write these and put them up just to give people ideas, and so that when you read the different ones, you can notice which ones feel good when you read them, and which ones just you didn't really feel anything. But to start to kind of get you working on that, what are some of the things that feel good when I hear, and how could I find a way to say this, or to ask people in my life to say this to me? Okay. All right. I'm moving on to radical resilience skill number 5, which is radical self-care. So to me, self-care gets a bad rep. We hear the term self-care. I purposely didn't use it in the title because it somehow was thought of as frivolous, not important. I don't have time for that. When would I fit it in? Certainly in my field, well, in public education and in the mental health field, we talk a lot about the importance of self-care, but at the same time, we all kind of wear it as a badge of honor, how burnt out we are. I think this happens with parenting all the time as well. Like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten a meal in days. I haven't talked to a friend in weeks. I just don't have time. We do it in our field with, I haven't taken a lunch break. I haven't done any of that. I just don't have time. And that's also a concern to me. Again, if our oxygen mask isn't on, it's really hard for us to get anyone else's on. And we have to be able to get our kids' oxygen masks on right now. So, radical self-care. What makes it so radical anyways? Well, to me, I had to brand it differently for myself so that I'd actually do it. When I was maybe 5 years into being a social worker, I was burned out. I was totally underprepared and overwhelmed by the everything, by the bureaucracy, by the trauma I was seeing. So and I had no plan in place to take care of myself, and my oxygen mask was just nowhere near me. I couldn't even find it, let alone put it on. So I had to find a way to brand radical self-care. So there it is. I'm hoping it will help because it's a little bit more appealing. It just sounds a little bit more fun to me. So what makes it radical is that you actually do it. To me, is that I actually started doing it when I called it that. So one day I was driving home from work. I had this long commute, and I called my husband, who now had been prepped on how to ask me questions. And it was clear to him and to me that I'd had just a really rotten day, just overwhelming and upsetting. I can remember the day. And he said, "Hey, why don't you drive to Whole Foods and walk around?" And I said, "What? Why would I do that?" And he said, "Haven't you ever noticed it makes you happy when you walk around Whole Foods?" And I hadn't really noticed that, but I did it. I got off the freeway, La Jolla Village Drive. I went and I walked around Whole Foods. And there it was. I started to get to neutral. Aesthetically, everyone looked high functioning. I was working in a much different environment. So that was reassuring. It just felt good. But I didn't know. So anyways, shout out back to your support tribe. They often know things you will not know about what helps you get back to neutral. So that's one option of radical self-care, is drive to Whole Foods and walk around. So I know now that's not an option, but in that it isn't as grandiose as sometimes we imagine self-care, right? I think for a long time I imagined it as a weekend away or a massage, or and so certainly with our current pandemic, that's not an option. But even when we're past this, that's often not an option when you're parenting and working. But radical self-care can happen in small doses. So this is my challenge to you today with radical self-care. If this one speaks to you, is to start to make a list. You'll get this integration handout that will give you a space for that, and to think about what you could do in a 10 or 15 minute dose or window of time. And I know even that is hard to come by. I get it. So I know this will be a challenge for a lot of you, but consider it. I have recently discovered the power of like how restorative 10 or 15 minutes of laying on my bed with noise canceling headphones. I had no idea how nourishing that could be. My husband will come out sometimes for lunch. We swap out with working, and he'll say, "Go take 10 or 15 minutes." And I'll always say, no, I'll just work through it. 10 or 15 minutes isn't enough. But then I gave into it at one point, and it, again, helped me get back to neutral. It just helped me get my oxygen mask back on. So laying on your bed with noise canceling headphones, 10 or 15 minutes. For me, I find TV to be like amazingly healing and comforting. Also challenging to watch the TV I want to watch with a 3-year-old who is my 3-year-old here at home. I don't think I shared that. She's wonderful, but it's hard to be quarantined. But watching 15 minutes, so I have a tablet I keep in my room, and just sneaking in 15 minutes of a Parks and Recreation episode. So we get small doses, things that make you smile on the inside, help your nervous system get regulated. Don't resist the shorter break. It isn't enough. Certainly it's not enough for you. You need days. You need just weeks off kind of recovering from this. But in the meantime, I encourage you to give 10 to 15 minutes a shot. I tried to make a list for you of some other options. To me, drinking, these are all anecdotally, these are not based on research, things that I have tried that work. Drinking coffee while I read, it's like the most luxurious thing of all time, and absolutely impossible when you are quarantined with your children and trying to work. But it's something I had to ask my partner about. 10 minutes. I want the ritual of reading something while I drink coffee, because those two things together are just like amazingly therapeutic for me. So again, I had to write all these down in a list. Also would encourage you all, this is not a 10 to 15 minute dose, but to try a 48-hour news detox. Something I've encouraged everyone I work with in therapy to do, really urged people to do a full 72 hours, I think is better. Really indefinite is better, but if that seems impossible, 48 hours of uninstalling news apps, not looking at the news, just to give your nervous system also a chance to recover. We're taking in just a massive amount of toxic stress from the media and the news right now, and your mind and your body need some respite from it. So every once in a while, if you can just give yourself a 48-hour detox, see how it feels after. Also, I'm doing all these Instagram shout outs, but I love to post radical self-care ideas. Every week there'll be different ideas up there. Just so you can see, again, not all of them will speak to you, but some of them will. And that would be awesome. You could start right away. My hope is you can start this today, as soon as we finish. So I'm going to ask you, and I'll never know if you really are doing this, but I'm trusting that you will, is to take your phones out and to put in your calendars right now, radical self-care. Oh, I'm getting a prompt. I haven't mentioned, how do you find me on Instagram? So it will be on the handout that I send, but it's at Heal with Play, Heal, Heal with Play. It's pretty awesome. I fought social media for a long time, but there's a lot of cool stuff out there. So I'm really excited about what I've been putting up there. Really, really designed to just be nourishing and restorative and hopeful for caregivers, for everybody who's taking care of kids. It's about taking care of you so that you can then take care of kids. So with your radical self-care, I am hoping you will put it in your calendar. I'm totally trusting most of you have done this. It might not work at the time you put it in, but I want you to put it in there so that it reminds you. So maybe it's a week from now, maybe it's tonight at 8:30 when kids are asleep, whatever it is. And it just, if you can get a 20-minute window, amazing, but shoot for 15. But putting it in your calendar is really what helps hold us accountable. And it might pop up and you'll say, oh, I can't right now, but I'm hoping you'll just edit and then put it in for a little bit later. That part is really important. Okay, I am getting close. I did it. I'm pretty impressed with my timing. So my closing is really that I'm hoping a couple of these spoke to you, at least maybe one, you just, when you heard it, you felt like, yeah, you could try that. I would urge all of you to at least try one of these. And it might feel like it doesn't work right away, but that's just how our brains work. It takes time for us to put it into place before we'll feel better. I always say, when you went to kindergarten, you didn't learn to read in 1 week, right? It takes a really long time for us to integrate this. So be kind to yourself, but be willing to try something you haven't tried before. There'll be the handout will be going out that will have a chance for you to kind of review these skills and kind of insert some of your own responses. This is really hard. I guess my last sentiment is just, this is so hard, but it is going to get better. It's going to get better, and it's so important you try to take the best care of yourself. Okay. I'm not sure if there are any questions.
Hi. So if anyone does have any questions for Sarah, and I want to make sure we give folks a chance before we wrap up, in the little area where you can see sort of your controls on the right of the screen, there is a question box if you want to put something in. Let's see what we have. All right. All right. Right. I do have a couple questions here, Sarah, for you. The first is, my schedule is jam-packed. How can I actually fit in the self-care? What can I do?
Yes. Oh my gosh, of course, right? How in the world are you going to do this? You are juggling more than before the coronavirus. You were juggling more than you thought humanly possible. And now look at you. The skills I talked about today, the resilience ideas, I really designed them having spent so much time with caregivers who were just so swamped. So the idea with these is they can be done kind of while you're in the middle of these tidal waves. The inner voice is designed to be used while you're experiencing kind of a wave of stress. It's just to notice the way you're going to talk to yourself. So my hope is these will be able to be done. And again, the radical self-care is just finding ways to carve out the 15 minutes, but that I get it. I know that part is so tricky. So I would say put it in your schedule, which I also know isn't easy. But also, if your schedule's so jam-packed, maybe focus on the ones that are really meant to be done even while you're working or while you're with your kids.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. And a second question we have, which is, do you have any suggestions for how to talk to my child about the coronavirus?
I do. Um, that is, this has come up quite a bit. I work with a lot of parents, a lot of teachers, a lot of kids who are confused. I am a firm believer in kids can handle what they know. They have a really hard time with what they don't know. So when we're vague and cryptic and ambiguous and all those things we tend to be as adults, that's confusing for them and that can be tricky. So this will look different developmentally, but it's really, the coronavirus is, I mean, back when this started, this was how I was introducing it. It's a virus and it's a cousin to the common cold and the flu. It loves to travel and jump from hand to hand. And when it comes to visit, it brings a cough, a fever, sometimes difficulty breathing, but it doesn't stay for long and almost everyone gets better. I can always send this to you. I know this is hard to remember. If there's anyone who loves this and you want me to type it out, I'm happy to get it to you. And you can help this by washing your hands and using hand sanitizer. So that's initially like when parents would want to know, how do I break this down? What do I really tell them? It was something like that this is what it is. And so to stay safe, we have to stay inside. It's changed the longer we've been kind of at shelter in place, and it changes depending on the developmental age. There's a ton of cool stuff out there on Instagram. I don't have a lot of this work, but there's tons of people doing this, trying to find ways that you can talk with your kid about it. But to me, most importantly, is that we're concrete, and we're honest, and that it's okay to have feelings about this. It's okay for us to and for them to, and to say, and it's okay to say when you don't know. I don't know, but I'm here, and my job is to help you get through this.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah. This has been just great information, great recommendations, some concrete things for me to do, for all of us to do. You put a smile on my face today, which I really appreciate. Appreciate your time today. I hope everyone has come away from Sarah's presentation with some new and some useful information, some things they can implement to just help them manage better and be more resilient during this time. Before we close for today, I just want to let folks who know, or folks who don't already know, about telemedicine benefits, including behavioral health for stress and anxiety. Um, so in order to both to keep people healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19, Always Health Partners, along with many other carriers, so if you're listening today and you may have your coverage through your spouse or what have you, we've significantly expanded coverage for telemedicine. During the time of emergency, we cover both like video conferencing with physicians as well as just regular telephone calls for appointments with PCPs, specialists, other providers. Currently, this is without copay or other cost sharing. That no copay could change in the future once we're beyond the COVID-19 emergency. But just stay tuned, wait and see. We really urge everybody to keep up with appointments, particularly for condition management and for any new concerns. And stress and anxiety are new concerns for a lot of people right now. Behavioral health is a covered benefit for all Always Health Partners members. So if you have any questions, concerns, want to talk to anyone, contact your provider, contact customer service here if you need some additional assistance. Um, and yeah, please take care of yourself. So please keep an eye in your inbox for the helpful links that are on your screen right now, so you don't have to write them all down. And for both Sarah and me, thank you all again, and be well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.